Hi, my name is Israel, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel, Legit Learning, where we believe that legitimate learning lasts a lifetime. Now in this video, it's my introductory video. I want to introduce myself and explain why I wanted to start Legit Learning. Now to start with, I'm a high school teacher, and I'm also a high school dropout. I went back to school later in life. I got my bachelor's in English with a focus on literature and a minor in philosophy. And then I went on to get a master's in education. My wife and I have been homeschooling our 3 daughters for the last 2 years. Now, as a high school student in the 90s, I felt as though there wasn't much my teachers had to offer me beyond handing me a textbook. And I'll never forget the first time I was asked to write a paper and use citations. My teacher said we had to use good sources, and then she gave us a list of acceptable sources. When I asked what makes these sources good, she said, well, they're good sources because they're trustworthy. I said, well, why are they trustworthy? And she said, because we can trust them. I said, but what is it about it? What is it about these sources that make them people we can trust, make them sources we can trust? And she looked at me kind of like I was stupid and said, well, they're trustworthy. And that was kind of where the conversation ended. Now, this introduction to circular logic wasn't the first one I would have in education. It wasn't the last one I would have. I learned over and over that asking questions is not really encouraged in K through 12. Most of my time in high school was spent ditching class to go sit in the library and read. I dropped out when I was a junior, got my GED, and waited for the earth to open up and swallow me whole. But it never did. Despite society's warnings that being a dropout would forever ruin my life, life just went on. Turns out, when I would apply for a job, it didn't matter that I'd never graduated from high school, which made me further question the value of public education. Now, over the next 18 years or so, I would work a wide variety of jobs, mainly working in construction or as a truck driver or working in bars, until I decided to go to college in my 30s. Then I would switch gears and spend some time in the medical field while attending college, which allowed me the flexibility I needed at the time. The reason I wanted to be a high school teacher was to try to reach kids like me, the ones that weren't allowed to thrive in areas they were good at, and ignored when they fell behind in areas they struggled with. Which brings me to Legit Learning. For most of my life, I was anti-homeschool. Most of my views on homeschooling came from some pretty basic misconceptions common in our society, combined with a few isolated experiences with the homeschool group, where I took my misconceptions and applied them to the group and never really gave it much thought. But like so many, when the schools shut down a few years back and I inadvertently became a full-time teacher's aide to my 3 daughters while their teachers piled on meaningless busy work as fast as they could, I started to question the public education system in some very specific ways. Rather than looking at the public school system as something we just go through, I, like many, started asking questions about whether or not public school is something we should be doing. And while personally I had been anti-homeschooling, I was never pro-public school. I'd just never been put in a situation to really question it. While working on my master's degree, I started working as a substitute teacher. And this, combined with the school shutdowns, created a perfect storm for me to really reevaluate my views on education in general. For my final year of my degree, I focused primarily on homeschooling and homeschool research, and it didn't take me long to become a convert. So, full disclosure, my wife was always pro-homeschool. When we first got together, her daughters, my stepdaughters, were 9, 6, and 2. And my wife had started out homeschooling the oldest before we had met and before life altered her plans. But now, 8 years later, her daughters are now my daughters, and we are finally on the same page as far as school goes. During my time in education, as a college student, a graduate student, a substitute teacher, an active volunteer at my daughter's traditional public schools and charter schools, a high school teacher, a homeschooling parent of an elementary, middle, and high school student, I've seen a lot of misconceptions in the public school realm as well as the homeschool world. And my goal isn't to necessarily clear up those issues and answer the hard questions, but to shed some light on those issues in a way that can hopefully lead to some more productive and meaningful conversations about education. Some of the things I'd like to address in these videos include homeschooling tips some issues with the current public education system, and I'd like to review some of the research that exists on homeschooling and public education. If you're interested in taking this journey with me, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to share your thoughts on this or any video I have, or have any issues you'd like to see me discuss, or have any questions you'd like to bring up, please feel free to drop me a message in the comments. Thanks for watching Legit Learning, where we believe that legitimate learning lasts a lifetime.